Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session on Sushruta Samhita Adhyaya. Without any delay, I would like to call upon Dr. Muralidhar Sharma sir, Professor Emeritus, STMCA Udupi, to take over the session. Welcome to you, sir.
The next is about Tantrayukti. अथातः तन्त्रयुक्तिम् अध्यायं व्याख्यास्यामः यथोवाच बुधान्तर्नन्तरिः द्वात्रिंशत् तन्त्रयुक्तयो भवन्ति शास्त्रे तद्यथा अधिकरणं योगः पदार्थः हेत्वर्थः उद्देशः निर्देशः उपदेशः अपदेशः प्रदेशः अतिदेशः अपवर्गः वाक्यशेषः अर्थापत्तिः विपर्ययः प्रसङ्गः एकान्तः अनेकान्तः पूर्वपक्षः निर्णयः अनुमतं
Hello, sir.
विधानम् अनागतापेक्षणं
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Sir, the screen is not shared, sir.
screen is not visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I make it. Now it is visible, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The Tantrayukti list, there are 32 Tantrayuktis mentioned, and they are these starting from Adhikarana to the Ushya. Now, अत्र आसां तन्त्रयुक्तीनां किं प्रयोजनम् उच्यते वाक्ययोजनम् अर्थयोजनं च भवन्ति चात्र श्लोकाः असद्वादिप्रयुक्तानां वाक्यानां प्रतिषेधनं स्ववाक्यसिद्धिरपि च क्रियते तन्त्रयुक्तितः व्यक्ता नोक्तास्तु ये ह्यर्थाः लीनाः ये चापि अनिर्मलाः लेशोक्ताः ये च केचित् स्युः तेषां चापि प्रसादनं यथा अम्बुजवनश्चार्कः प्रदीपो वेश्मनो यथा प्रबोधस्य प्रकाशार्थं तदा तन्त्रस्य युक्तयः. Now, Tantrayukti is a very specific skill of writing. Now, we people think of this, or rather, there is a program of NCAMS like a training in writing research articles and so on. So, that writing an article or writing a textbook, it requires certain skill, because you will have multiple varieties of the facts put together, and you cannot just simultaneously tell all the facts together. There has to be some linkage between one fact and the other. See, whenever we discuss about any issue, there will be some linkage between one topic to the other topic, and that linkage has to be understood properly. That technique of feeling this or making this linkage a very objective is the basis of the Tantrayukti. That's simply, in the present day situation, you do not have any such specific method as such. For you will have, for scientific articles, there is some method, like you start with the introduction, and then you have to need for the study, and then you will have to say like what are the resources or the source for the study, and then you will have to say like what are the methods and so on. So similar, but for other articles, like other textbook, like there is no such specific guideline. All that would be like you have to make it as brief as possible and make it more convincing. But from Ayurvedic point of view, there is a very specific method, scientific method of devising these techniques, and that technique is the Tantrayukti. And a benefit of that Tantrayukti is Vakya Yojanam, Artha Yojanam. Vakya Yojana, the statements as such, verbal statements have to be related to each other. Artha Yojana, the meanings have to be put together. Advantages of Tantrayukti is that you can negate those who speak against the topic. They can be easily negated, like, or you can establish whatever you have said very convincingly. So asadvadi prayuktanam, pratishedhanam, and sovakya siddhi. These are the two important benefits are. And the other benefits are, there are certain hidden meanings in certain of the statements. Many times there are some meanings of the sentences which are not really expressed properly, expressed in words. But when you say a sentence, some of the derived meanings are understood easily, and that's the making the understanding of the meanings of a sentence, which is either expressed openly, or there are meanings of those sentences which are not openly expressing the meanings have to be understood, or to understand the meanings of a brief statement. A brief statement may be expanded to any extent, and that expansion of the brief statement is to be understood. So techniques of these are what we call as Tantrayukti. Sushruta gives a comparison to the Tantrayukti like a lotus flower getting bloomed on exposure to the sunlight. Similarly, when you are skilled in Tantrayukti, the knowledge of the text would be understood properly. So Tantrayukti, I would give a pictorial representation of Tantrayukti. If I have to give, I would give the expression, this representation in the form of this quizzical game. In the quizzical game of these sorts, there are plenty of, you might have seen many of that toys also, where to combine these pieces together, there is some logic, and that logic, most of the times when we do it on our own calculation. Suppose the same logic is to be given by a computer. The computer will be given in the form of a code, and this code is Tantrayukti, sort of the code. So I would give a different meaning to that Tantrayukti from that point of view, that coding of these logics which make these pieces together by studying these complexities, and these complexities are formed into a code, then that becomes the Tantrayukti. I think that would be the best interpretation of Tantrayukti. With this introduction to Tantrayukti, we will go into description of each of these Tantrayukti. The first of the Tantrayukti is a adhikaranam. Tat yamartham adhikritya uchyate tat adhikaranam yatha rasam dosham cha dosham va. Base of the discussion. See, like whenever we start with the discussion or teaching, the fundamental topic is the adhikarana. Like when we are reading about Sushruta Samhita is adhikarana. So you'll have, before you start with the study, you'll have to have a brief idea like what Sushruta Samhita is. Like it's a comprehensive textbook written by a author and so on, and it's dealing with the surgical topics. So that kind of a brief idea has to be there. Similarly, whenever you speak of any topic like rasam dosham va, you have to have some clear idea like what is the rasa and what is the dosha, basic idea, and then you can go further into the details. That's the adhikarana. The next is the yoga. Yena vakyam vidyate sa yoga. When one sentence is combined with the other sentence and the meanings are linked together, that's the yoga. The example given by Sushruta is Tailam pibet amritavalli nimba himsa bhaya vrikshaka pippalibhi siddham balabhyam sadevadaro hitaya nityam galagandaroge ityatra Tailam siddham pibet api pratamam vaktavye tritiya pade siddham iti prayuktam evam durasthanam iti padanam ekikaranam. Now, in this sentence, the shloka, first shloka, the Tailam pibet amritavalli nimba himsa bhaya vrikshaka pippalibhi Siddham, so that prepared taila, the word siddha is used for the first combination of the drug like Amritavalli Nimba. Or the next part is another option of the taila is Sadevadaru Nityam, Bala and Devadaru also can be used in the treatment of Galaganda Roga. But the word siddha is used only once. There are two yogas of Amritavalli Nimba and Bala Devadaru. But these are in both the when these two Taila yogas are mentioned, the word siddha is used as one. That is the skill of making the expression correctly. And anybody who reads it should easily understands that preparation of the Taila of these two combinations have to be done, though the word preparation siddha is mentioned only once. That is the yoga. Then yo artho abhitah sutre padeva sapadartah padasya padaivoh padanam artha padartah aparimitashcha padartah yatha sneha sweda antaneshu nirdisheshu trayoh trayanam va arthanam upapattihi drishyate yatra yo artah purvapara yoga siddho bhavati sagrahitavyaha yatha वेदोत्पत्तिम अध्यायम व्याख्यासम युक्तिते संदिश्यते बुद्धिः कथम अस्य वेदस्य उत्पत्ति मोक्षति इति यतः ऋग्वेदादयस्तु वेदाः विधिविचारणे विदुर्लाभे इत्येतयोश्च धातोः अनेकार्थयोः प्रयोगात् तत्र पूर्वप्रयोगम् उपलभ्य प्रतिपत्तिर्भवति आयुर्वेदोत्पत्तिम् अयं विवक्षुः इति एष पदार्थः. Padartha is a specific meaning of a word which is contextual in this context. Now, word padartha has a very wider meaning. anything which can be expressed through the words is a padartha. So, and the word would have a very vast meaning. See, after all, word is a combination of aksharas, letters, and it's just a pronunciation which makes the meaning, and that's what we call as a shakti. So, shakti is the meaning of the word, and that shakti is or the artha, meaning of the word, is combined together in such a way that the intention of the person who expresses the word is the most important issue. See, after all, the evolution of the language, it starts with the certain sound words, and the interpretation of the words would be based upon the this context as such. See, it's not only the human beings who are expressing through the words. Every animal would have a method of, majority of the animals, I would not say, majority of the animals would have the technique of communicating through the words. The words expressed by the animals are not understood by human beings, and the words expressed by the human beings, they may not be understood in the same manner by the animals. But still, when an animal produces some sound, we can make out the intention. A hungry animal, a satisfied animal, you can make out that by looking at the sound. So similarly, with the human beings who have a very complex skill of making the words and then the expression of the meanings can be understood based upon the context. So same word used in a different context may have a different meaning. Given example by Sushruta is when we say Vedotpatti, the word Veda would have a multiple meanings like the Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, etc. And the word meaning has, the Veda has a broader meaning like anything which can be understood or which can be discussed or which can be gained with the Vicharane or with the Labhe. So, you may be confused like which of the meaning has to be taken in. But considering the context, when the Vedotpatti is a word is used in an Ayurvedic textbook, you will not have a confusion like it is about the Ayurveda. Suppose the same Vedotpatti word is used in some other Rigveda related book, you will be understanding that it is the meaning of it's related to the Veda as such. A colloquial language, somebody on the road, if he says like in Sanskrit, if he speaks in Sanskrit, and if he uses the word Veda, it could be meaning like he is trying to understand the context or discussing the issues, trying to like in Bhagavad Gita it's mentioned, word used is Yastam Veda Saveda Vida. Those who understand the principles, that's a word used in Bhagavad Gita in the context like Yastam Veda. The one who understands the God principle is Vedavita. He understood the Veda. Now the word Veda are used in the same sentence in two contexts, two locations. The first word Veda is to relate it to the understanding. The other word Veda is about that traditional knowledge, all Veda, Yajurveda, and Vedas. So now these meanings have to be understood on based upon your previous experience, and this is exactly what is mentioned by the Padartha. यद अन्यदुक्तम अन्यर्थ साधकम भवति स हेत्वर्थः यथा मृत्पिंडो अभिप्रक्लिद्यते तथा नाशदुग्ध प्रभृतिभिः व्रणः प्रक्लिद्यते इति. When you say a sentence, if the same sentence give a meaning which is different from the real words expressed, what we call as the literary meaning and the meaning which is understood, literary verbal meaning, we usually say like one of the very popular statements is law has to be followed by both in words and spirits. There is two aspects of any expression, word and spirit. Word is exactly the words, the meaning of it. Spirit is something which is a notion which is somewhat concealed and which has to be understood as the real intention of the person, and this is exactly what we say as the Shakti. Now, so the word meaning may be the words may be different, but the meaning understood could be different. Now, Sushruta gives an example like a mass of soil becomes wet and moist. Similarly, a consumption of the masha, dugdha, etc. can produce a moisture in the prana. So that example of mritpinda getting moistened by the water is an expression which is related to what you see outside. But in the context of a vrana, you will be understanding that it's a similar issue occurs when you consume certain of the substances in the vrana. So that's it. Samasavachanam uddeshaha yatha shalyamiti. Samasavachana is a concluding statement, a concluding statement which involves a broader meaning. So when we use a single word and that word covers a huge area, then that's a samasavachana. Yatha shalyamiti. Shalya is anything which produces a injury or hurt feeling both to the body and mind. And the substances which can produce them could be many. It could be kasta, pashana, pamsha, etc. It could be even vrana. It could be even dukkha shalya. See, a broader these aspects of these substances or entities, they could produce the same effect of producing hurt to the body and the mind, and all of them are put together as a shalya. So that kind of an expression is a samasavachana. Vistaravachanam nirdeshaha yatha shariram agantukam. Now, Vistaravachana is a further detail, going into the detail. Now, once you say shalya, the next part you will divide that shalya into sharira and agantuka. And again in the sharira you will be again discussing like something which is endogenous within the body, like the hairs, bones, etc. And it are the doshas. See, hairs and bones which are visible directly, doshas which are not visible. And among the agantuka again, it could be like trina, kasta, pashana, etc. So depending upon that, so you can go on describing and widening the meaning, and that is the nirdeshaha. Then evam ityupadeshaha, a concluding statement which gives a guideline, like you have to follow this guideline, then that's the upadesha. And that guideline is drawn after a detailed discussion of the pros and cons of that issue. And as an example, tatha na jagriyad ratro divasapnam vardeyet. After discussing about the physiological effects of the keeping awake at night or sleeping at daytime, the concluding statement is because of these reasons you should not keep awake at night and should not sleep. That kind of a statement which gives a concluding statement after a pair discussion, and which gives you some guideline like this has to be the to be followed. That is the upadesha. Anena karanena iti apadesha yatha apadishyate. Now when you give a reason, and after giving the reason you will say that this would be the consequence of an effect. That is the apadesha. And given example is madhura shleshmanam abhivardayati. The madhura rasa will increase or worsen the kapha because there is a reason. The reason is madhura rasa is having the Prithvi Mahabhuta and Ap Mahabhuta. Prithvi Mahabhuta and Ap Mahabhuta have the same character of Shleshma, and because of the Vriddhi Samana Sarvesham, it increases the kapha. So this kind of a logical expression of step by step reasoning is the apadesha. Prakritasya atikrantena sadhanam pradeshaha. Yatha devadaks anena shalyam udrutam tata yajnadruttasyapi ayam uddharishyati iti. By looking at one activity, if you can conclude that another similar activity either has been done or it can be occurring in the future, that kind of this feeling or that kind of a notion is a pradesha. So when you see somebody having some specific skill, a person who can achieve certain things like certain activity, like in a circus, somebody is a circus man jumps from a height. By looking at that, you can feel that make that another person who gets training of the same sort also can achieve the same skills, but it requires training and that kind of an expression. So when one fellow in the circus jumps from the height, and the fellow who is just waiting for others, that the next also can do the same. This is how you can conclude. Similarly, the example given by Sushruta is if a person, a trained doctor, removes the shalya of Devadatta, one man, he can also remove the Shalya, or treat the other person also. A one who can treat a patient can treat the other patient also, and Sushil gives examples like Devaratha and Yajnavatha. Devaratha is one person, Yajnavatha is another person. So if you have successfully treat one patient, a similar condition in another patient also may be treated by you. So that kind of a notion is the pradesha. प्रकृतस्य अनागतस्य साधनम् अतिदेशः यतो अस्य वायुः ऊर्ध्वम् उत्तिष्ठति तेन उदावर्ती स्यात् इति. By looking at the current situation, if you can predict about the next level, next consequence of that, that is the atidesha. Like if you see a cloud now and say that there is going to be rain, that is the atidesha. The example given by Sushila is yato asya vayuh urdhvam uttisthate tena udavarti syat iti. If a person is having lot of irritations and feels that there is a retrograde peristaltic movement, then you can predict that this patient would have the udavarta vyadhi in due course of time. Abhivyapya apakarshana apavargaha yatha asvedyaha vishopasyastaha anyatra kita vishaditi. When you are discussing about a broad aspect of any activity and show an expression, this exception to that. See, in general, all the students are supposed to be attending the classes regularly. But if there could be some exception to a person due to certain reason, suppose a person has certain reason, then you may exempt him from attending the classes, or whenever we do some activity, there is some issue of exemption. That exemption is apakarshana. The example given by Sushila is all those conditions which are affected by Visha, they should not be given the Svedana. But an exception is Kita Vishata. If the poisoning is due to Kita, he may be treated with the Svedana, but other poisoning conditions should not be treated with the Svedana. Yena padena anuktena vakyam samapyena savakya sheshaha yatha shiraha pani pada parshva prustha udara urasam ityukte purusha grahanam vinapi gamyate purusha seti. By expressing a long sentence, you may just feel that that whole sentence represents one entity. That kind of a expression is Vakya Sheshaha, a detailed statement which gives a concluding, which gives a meaning which is understood like it is related to one object, then that is the Vakya Shesha. Example given by Sushila is when you say head, hand, legs, or the other different parts of the body, it's quite obvious that you are speaking about a human being. So when we discuss about the individual list of organs of the body, you get an impression that you are talking about a human being as such. That kind of an expression is Vakya Shesha. Yat akirtitam arthat apadyate sa arthapati yatha odanam bhokshe ityukte arthat apannam bhavati nayam pipasu yavakuhu iti. Now arthapati is a situation where the expressed sentence is something different, but the derived meaning is something different. Like if you say that another example given in other texts is divana bhunte. That means like he is. If a person says that I won't eat at all at daytime, that's a derived meaning is he eats at a night time. Similarly, the other given example by Sushila is if you say that I prefer to have solid food, odanam, rice, or other solid food, the derived meaning is you are not thirsty. If you are thirsty, you will be opting for some liquids. So when you are demanding for a solid food substance, then it means that you are not thirsty. That's the indirect meaning, understood meaning of arthapati. यद्यत्र अभिहितं तस्य प्रातिलोम्यं विपर्ययः यथा कृश अल्प प्राणभीरो दुष्टिचिकित्सयाः इत्युक्ते विपरीतं गृह्यते दृढादयः सुचिकित्सयाः इति. When you express a sentence, if the ultimate meaning, hidden meaning of that gives an opposite or something which is antagonistic to the real expression, then that kind of a derivation is called as a viparyaya. Like when you say that Krisha Alpa Pranabhirava, those who are emaciated and those who have a low willpower and who are afraid of the instruments, they are difficult to be treated. The understood meaning is those who are well built and those who have a better willpower, they can be better treated. So that's how the derivation is done. This derivation is done by a logical thinking, like when you say you can achieve a certain issue by a specific quality of the object. The same either cannot be achieved by having opposite qualities. That's the issue. प्रकरणान्तरेण समापनं प्रसङ्गः यदा प्रकरणान्तरचो यतो यो अर्थो असकृदुक्तः समाप्यते स प्रसङ्गः यथा पञ्चमहाभूतशरीरी समवायः पुरुषस्तस्मिन् क्रिया सो अधिष्ठानमिति वेदोत्पत्तो अभिधाय भूतचिन्तायां पुनरुक्तं यतो अभीतं पञ्चमहाभूतशरीरी समवायपुरुष इति सकल्वेषः कर्मपुरुषश्च चिकित्साधिकृतः. Now, when a expression or a sentence description given at one context, if it has to be referred back to in another context, that kind of a reference given to the previous expression is samapanam. Samapana is reference, giving reference to a previous statement. This is a very common issue when we discuss certain topics. We say that we have discussed this in detail in the previous chapter, previous context. So you have to go back to that. Similar contexts are the prasangaha. Now, the given example by Sushila is yatha panchamahabhuta shariri samaya purusha, like the Vedotpatti Adhyaya, the Purusha is described as a Panchamahabhuta Shariri. In the Bhuta Chintadhyaya, the same Purusha word is expressed, and you have to derive at that context the Purusha is the subject for the treatment. The same Purusha which is mentioned in the previous chapter is also the subject for the treatment in this. That's how the references are made out. Previous references are referred to. सर्वत्र यद् अवधारणेन उच्यते स एकान्तः यथा त्रिविधविरेचयति मदनफलं वामयति. A final conclusion which is applicable at all times, and something which is an invaluable statement which cannot be negated at any time. The final obvious concluding statement is avadharana. Like Trivit Virajati Madanaphalam Vameti. Trivit produces Virajana, Madanaphala produces Vamana. It's a definite, always, irrespective of any expression. When Trivit is given, there will be Virajana. When Madanaphala is given, it produces Vamana. That kind of an expression is Ekanta. There will be no other these possibilities. Whereas, when you express in a sentence, if there are many other possibilities, alternate possibilities, that's anekantah. Kachittata kvachidanyatha iti yas anekantah. Yatha kechid acharyah bruvate dravyam pradhanam kechid rasam kechid viryam kechid vipakam iti. If there are certain options and you are not very sure, whatever you say is not final, you say that the other options also are possible, then that is considered as anekanta. Ekanta and anekanta are the contradictory. The given example by Sushla is in case of which is pradhana, there are some discussions like dravya is pradhana, rasa is pradhana, or virya is pradhana, or vipaka is pradhana, and there are many people who say, so we will accept the opinions of all, we will not go into the dispute. This is what usually what we do like. Then akshepa purvaka prashnaha purvapaksha yata katham vatanimishtascha chatvarah prameha asadhya bhavanti iti. If you are questioning a statement, and that questioning of the statement say that it has a hidden feeling like whatever the statement given by you is not easily acceptable, that kind of a questioning is the Purvapaksha. Purvapaksha is an attempt to negate the statement which is presented and asking for clarification about the possible other options. Like example is when Vatanimislaha Chatvara Prameha Asadhya Bhavanti, when why the Vataja Prameha are Asadhya, whereas many other Vataja Vyadhi can be treated better. That kind of a questioning is the Purvapaksha. Tasya Uttaram Nirnaya. If somebody gives a satisfactory answer to that kind of a question of Purvapaksha, that is the Nirnaya. Yatha Shariram Pravedya Paschat Adogatva Vasa Medo Madhyanvidam Mutram Vishrujati Vataha Evam Asadhyaha Vataja iti. तथा च उक्तम कृष्णं शरीरं निष्पीड्य मेदो मज्जावसायितः अधः प्रकृतिरे वायुः तेन असाध्यस्तु वातजाः. For such a question, if you give a solution by giving all that logical reasons, like why it's so, by giving an example like the vata covers the whole of the body and then it is directed downwards, resulting in involvement of the mutra, that becomes difficult to be treated. परमतम अप्रतिषिद्धम अनुमतम यथा अन्यो ब्रूयात् सप्रसा इति तच्च अप्रतिषिद्धात् अनुमन्यते कथञ्चिदिति. If a statement of others also is partially accepted, we say that okay, somebody says something, a different statement, but we will accept that too, we will not question that too. That kind of a partial acceptance of a statement of others is anumatam, and you are not negating that. Like about the rasa sankhya, numbers of the rasas, Sushruta says there are 6 rasas, but there are certain others who say that saparasaha, there are 7 rasas. So we will accept that also, though for all our contexts we will consider only 6 rasas, but the logic or the description saying that there are 7 rasas also is not very wrong, we will accept partially. That kind of an expression is anumata. प्रकरण अनुपूर्व्य अभीतम विधानम यथा शक्तिमर्माणि एकादश प्रकरणानि अनुपूर्व्य अभीतानि. When you give a description of a context, in a context, if you give a description and that description is relevant to at that context, that kind of a description is vidhana. Like when it is a question of Sakti Marma, the Sakti Marma are 11, and whenever you say the Sakti Marma, the 11 number has to come into your mind. That kind of a statement is the vidhana. एवं मुक्षति इति अनागतापेक्षणं यथा श्लोकस्थाने ब्रूयात् चिकित्सेत वक्ष्यामि इति. Whenever you give a description, if you say that in future, in the next chapter, we will be discussing about the context issue now, and we will just move ahead. That kind of a expression is anagata. Like in Sutrasthana, it is often said like the further description will be discussed in Chikitsasthana, and this is something which we do almost every day. Like when we discuss about a topic in the one class, we say that the further description would be in the next coming classes that we will discuss in future. So that kind of a statement is anagata vekshana. Yat purvamuktam tad atikranta vekshanam yatha chikitse bruyat shlokasthane yadiritam iti. If you are referring to a statement which is given or an explanation given in the previous context, and say that whatever the description which was discussed earlier, it has to be now taken in, that kind of an expression is an atikranta vekshana. And the given example is when a issue discussed in the Sutrasthana is referred to in the Chikitsasthana, that's anagata vekshana. उभय हेतु दर्शनम संशयः यथा कलहृदय अभिघातः प्राणहरः पाणिपादच्छेदनम अप्राणहरम इति. When there is some controversial statement which can give you some confusion from the common sense point of view, an expression or a description which bypasses the simple common sense, but there are certain logics about it, that kind of a situation is samshaya, which is not easily acceptable. The given example is if an injury to the talahridaya, a part of the hand, in the middle of the hand, is pranahara, it can kill. But a complete removal of a hand may not kill, it may not produce a fatal complication. That seems to be having some logical weak statement. Like a part of the hand produces very serious complications, whereas the complete removal of the hand doesn't. Then you can give the reasons like why and so, because of the complex structures at the talahridaya magna. And when you remove the hand completely, when you go for the amputation, it is done as a surgical procedure, and the safe precautions can be taken. That's how the further derivation. But any such issue which gives some confusion to the common sense point of view, that is the samshaya. Tantre atishayo varnanam vyakhyanam yatha यह पंचविंशतिः पुरुषो व्याख्याते अन्येषु आयुर्वेदतन्त्रेषु भूतादि प्रवृत्त्यारभ्यतिन्ता. Now, when we give a explanation which is exclusive for the context, which is exclusive in that situation, which may not be seen in the other textbooks, other contemporaries are not having that kind of a knowledge, and you are giving a discussion which is exclusive, which is not really seen in others, that kind of a situation or expression is a vyakhyana. Like in Sushruta, the Panchavimshati Purusha Uchyate, there are 25 components in the Purusha, Purusha, starting from Prakriti to the Indriyas. Whereas in other textbooks, it starts with the Bhutadi, Prakriti, Mahabhuta, Panchabhuta, that Mahan, Ahankara, Tattva are not mentioned in some other texts, whereas we express these starting from Purusha, Prakriti, Mahan, Ahankara, so it makes 25. So the description given by Sushruta is exclusive, that is a Vyakhyana. Anyashastra Samanya Suramya yatha Mithanamiti Madhusarpisho Grahadam Loka Prasiddham Udaharanam. When you give a description which is common in all other texts, others also express in the same manner, then that is a Swasamya. Like example, when you use the word Mithuna in Ayurvedic textbooks, in all Ayurvedic textbooks, when the word Mithuna relates to combination of Madhu and Sarpi, which is acceptable in all. So, Vyakhyana and Swasamya, they seem to be something like antagonistic. Nishchitam Vachanam Nirvachanam, when a concluding statement, final concluding statement after the discussion is the Nirvachana. Like Ayurveda Asmin Anyanava Ayurvindati iti Ayurveda. A definition of Ayurveda is a science which deals with the understanding of the life, that is Ayurveda, or a science which gives you the ability to gain life is Ayurveda. So that kind of a derivation which is concluding and which is final, that is Nirvachana. Drishtanta Bhakti Nidarshanam, Drishtantah Bhakti Nidarshanam, Yatha Agni Vayuna Saita Kakshe Vruddhi Gachati, Tata Vachapita Kamadusto Ranaha iti, giving a simile to an context is the Nidarshana. Nidarshana is simply giving a simile, like comparing a similar activity elsewhere so that you can understand the context. Like Agni Vayuna Saita Kakshe Vruddhim Gachati, like a fire getting expanded or getting wild in a room. Similarly, the impaired Vata Pitta Kapas can produce aggravation of the wound or destroy the wound. Idameva kartavyam iti niyogah pathyameva bhuktavyam. A statement which imposes some activity on a person, that's a niyoga, and you should not deviate from. The example is pathyameva bhuktavyam. You have to have pathya only, the suitable food only. Idam cha iti samuchayah yatha mamsavarge yadaharinadeha lavtikti sharangascha pradhanani iti. The same niyoga goes into the next level where you go into the description of that, like among the pathya, which is the pathya, if that question comes in, that kind of an answer where you give it in detail, like among the mamsas, non-vegetable foods, yena harinadeha, the flesh of the yena is the deer, harina also there's some other different deer, or it could be the birds like lavatikti sharanga, their flesh is better, is pathya, that is considered to be the samuchaya. Idamva iti vikalpaha, giving an option in the same niyoga. If you give an option, either this or the other way, that is the niyoga. Like rasaudana sagrata yabagurva, odana, that's the rice prepared with the grita or with the yavagu, or in the form of yavagu, also can be considered as pathya. Yes, anirdishtam buddhya avagumyate tadausham yatra तथा यथा अभिहितम अन्नपान विधौ चतुर्विधम च अन्नम उपदिश्यते भक्ष्यम भोज्यम लेशम पेयमिति एवं चतुर्विधे वक्तव्ये द्विविधम अभिहितम इदम अत्र ऊह्यम अन्नपाने विशिष्टयोः द्वयोः ग्रहणे कृते चतुर्नामापि ग्रहणं भवति इति चतुर्विधश्च आहारः प्रायेण द्विविधः एव अतो द्वित्वं प्रसिद्धम् इति किञ्चान्यत् अन्नेन भक्ष्यम् अवरुद्धं घनसाधर्म्यात् पेयेन लेश्यं द्रवसाधर्म्यात्. Now if you can derive something from your own logical thinking, something beyond what is mentioned in the text, or which is already expressed, that is buha. Like when you say that there are 4 types of the food, bhaksham, bhojya, lesha, peya. Now somebody may ask, like, why we should go into 4? We can categorize them into 2 only. Like one is the solid, the bhakshya and the bhojya are the solid, lesha and peya are the liquids. This way we can derive. So this kind of a logical these derivations, logical expansion of the meaning is uha ushyam. This is about the different tantrayuktis, and the advantages of tantrayukti are सामान्य दर्शनेन आसां व्यवस्था संप्रदर्शिता विशेषस्तु यथा योगम उपधार्यो विपश्चिता द्वात्रिंशद्युक्तयोः हेताः तन्त्रतारकवेषणे मया सम्यक् विनिहिताः शब्दार्थन्यायसंयुताः यो हि ओताः विधिवत् वेत्ति दीपीभूतास्तु बुद्धिमान् सत् पूजार्हो भिषक श्रेष्ठ इति धन्वन्तरे मतम्. The Tantrayukti which are mentioned are to give you the different levels of gaining the knowledge, and these Tantrayuktis should be understood properly, and those who understands the Tantrayukti properly and uses them, that person would be Pujarha and Bishak Shrestha. He is respected and he will be a great physician. With this, we conclude the chapter of Tantrayukti. It is Sushruta Samhitayam उत्तरतन्त्रे तन्त्रभूषण अध्यायेषु तन्त्रयुक्तिर्नाम तृतीयोऽध्यायः आदितः पञ्चषष्टितमो अध्यायः. We will continue further in the next chapter. The next chapter is a very short chapter and last chapter, so that's the advantage. And this is about दोषभेद विकल्पमध्यायं व्याख्यास्यामः यथोवाक् भगवन्तधन्वन्तरिः. अष्टाङ्गवेदविद्वांसं दिवोदासं महोजसं छिन्नशास्त्रार्थसन्देहं सूक्ष्म आगमोदधिं विश्वामित्रसुतः श्रीमान् सुश्रुत परिपृच्छति. Now this again is a last chapter, and again there is a discussion between the teacher and the student. The student asks the question to the teacher, and the teacher is described. The capability of the teacher, Devadasa, is described as Chinna Shastrartha Sandeham, a person who can remove all the doubts about the text, and a person who is having a very valuable, very fine-tuned knowledge, an extensive knowledge of the Agama Udadi. The Agama Udadi, the text is compared to the sea, and who has a perfect knowledge of every context, both finer and detailed knowledge of that is the capacity of the teacher. द्विषष्टिः दोषभेदाः ये पुरस्तात् परिकेशिताः कति तत्र एकशोज्ञयः द्विषो वा अपि अथवा त्रिशः. Now the question was, like, there are 62 dosha bhedas are mentioned, and how they have to be understood, whether it's a single dosha, combination of 2 or 3. तस्य तद्वचनं श्रुत्वा संशयच्छिन्नमहातपाः प्रीतात्मा नृपशार्दूलः श्रुताय आह तत्त्वतः. Then the teacher gives the description of these dosha bheda, the varieties. Now this is simply a chapter gives you the numbers. As we have rasak vikalpa, similarly the dosha bheda vikalpa gives you the number of permutation and combinations of the doshas and how they can affect the disease and the treatment protocols. त्रयोदोषाः धातवश्च पुरुषं मूत्रमेव च देहं सन्धारयन्त्येते हि अव्यापन्नाः रसैः हितैः. The dosha, dhatu and mala, they would be supporting the body, and they are really benefited, or they are maintained properly by the consumption of proper rasas. So there is a dosha vikalpa and there is a rasa vikalpa. The numbers of rasa, pravicharana's, we have discussed in the previous earlier chapters, and the dosha numbers would be discussed now. And this combination, a dosha combination and a suitable rasa combination, that kind of a equation maintains the body and health. पुरुषः षोडशकलः प्राणाश्च एकादश एव च रोगाणां तु सहस्रं यत् शतं विंशतिरेव च शतं च पञ्चद्रव्याणां त्रिसप्तत्यधिकोत्तरं व्यासतः कीर्तितं तद्धि. Now Purusha has 16 components. The dosha, dhatu, mala put together will be 16, and pranascha ekadashaha, there are 11 pranas. This again we have discussed in the context of Sharira Sana. And rogas, diseases could be hundreds, thousands, or into these innumerable numbers. And Shatamcha Panchadravyana, 500 drugs with 573 drugs are described in the Samhita in total. This is what Sushu says, but actually if you go into the number of drugs which are mentioned in the Samhita, it will be slightly more than that. But in the Uttarasthana, the total number of drugs mentioned in Sushu is mentioned as 573. Maybe there is a a lot of big confusion about this issue. We will not go into that confusing issue, whether it is really 573 or 680. That's about the issue. Anyway, we leave it at that point. भिन्नाः दोषाः त्रयो गुणाः द्विषस्थिता भवन्ति इति भूयिष्ठम् इति निश्चयः. The three doshas can be having a permutation combination of 62, and those are त्रयेव पृथक् दोषाः. द्विषो नवसमाधिकैः त्रयोदश अधिकैः एकैकद्विसमाधि सम अध्य उल्बणैः त्रिशः. पञ्चाशदेवं तु सह भवन्ति क्षयमागतैः क्षीणमध्याधिकक्षीणक्षीणवृद्धैः सुतापदैः द्वादश एवं समाख्याताः त्रयो दोषाः द्विषस्थिताः. The numbers would be first three sets are ekadasha vata pitta kapha. Then there is a combination of vata pitta pitta kapha and so on, that becomes nava 9. And trayodasha adhika ekekaha, a combination of 3 vata pitta kapha where one will be more, like vata adhika pitta in the middle and kapha lower, and then again next is the vata lower pitta kapha and so on. This kind of combination would be panchashata, 50 as such. And then you will have a similar issue when there is a kshaya, those kshayas also, another 50. And kshina madhyadika kshina viddhahi tadapadehi dvadasha. By having that kshina vataka kshina madhya adhika pitta madhya and kapha adhika, then the next is vata madhya pitta kshina kapha adhika, and the next is vata kshina pitta kshina kapha adhika, and this way, this kind of a combination, it makes in total Dvishashtihi 62. That's what Sushruta gives the number. But practically, if you go for mathematical calculation of permutation or combination of this sort, this comes to 812 of these numbers. So Sushruta gives 62, so we will not go into further confusion about that issue. Probably, considering the clinical importance, Sushruta has given that number. But with the objective mathematics, the algebraic notations, formula of permutation combination, this comes to 800 odd. Mishra dhat malaihi doshaha yanti asankhyatam punaha tasmat prasangam sanyamya dosha bheda vikalpanehi rogam viritva upachare rasa bhede yatheritehi bishak karta atha karanam rasah doshastu karanam karyam arogyam eva ekam anarogyam ato anyatha. Based upon these variation of combinations, the combinations of the rasas, the rasa vicharana, pravicharana, they have to be used which are suitable for that suitable combination. And a physician who is able to do that will achieve either arogya, health, or a person who cannot do that will be a cause for the disease. And the responsibility of the physician is to recommend which of the rasa, combination of the rasas will be suitable for the suitable doshas. So that's all about the chapter. Now the last concluding sentence by Sushruta about the Samhita is Adhyayanam Shatshastya Pratitartha Pratakarmam Evametadasheshena Tantram Uttaram Ruddhimata Spasta Gudartha Vijnanam Agadam Mandachetasam यथाविध यथा प्रश्नं भवतां परिकीर्तितं सह उत्तरं तु एतद् अधीत्य सर्वब्राह्मं विधानेन यथा उदितेन न हीयते अर्थात् मनसो अभ्युपेतात् एतद् द्वचो ब्राह्मम् अतीव सत्यम्. The 66 chapters of the Uttara Tantra are a brief statement which gives a complete knowledge of all the topics, and it's suitable for, or it clarifies all the knowledge to even a person who has a very weak grasping capacity. Agadha Mandachetasa has a poor grasping and retaining capacities, and it's expressed based upon the question and answer model. And those who take this answer correctly and study it properly in a Brahma Vidhana, study it properly in a proper manner, then you will never forget about that issue, and your speech also, your words also would have a Brahma, divine capacity. With this, we conclude. Iti Sushruta Samhitayam Uttaratantre Doshabheda Vikalpo Nama षट्षष्टितमो अध्यायः. Iti Sushruta Samhitayam Uttaratantram Samaptam, and the last is Samaptayam Sushruta Samhita. With this, the Sushruta Samhita discussion is completed, and I am quite happy that we have achieved a major milestone, and I am thankful to all of you, very specifically Rajat, who has given this stimulus for this. And very interestingly, all these discussions present in the YouTube have given stimulus to many, and I am quite happy, and I thank you all of you for giving this opportunity. With this, we will conclude today. If there are any questions, we will try to answer. So we have achieved a major milestone, and we should be proud of that. Right? Okay. Thank you. Fine. So we will conclude.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.